Hello and welcome to a humble Highland home. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Over the next 2 days I'm hoping to finish weeding, clearing and spreading of the stones over the driveway up to the road. I have been gradually working my way along the driveway over the past 2 years, but other jobs have been taking priority. But this year it made it onto the finish what we started list. If you haven't seen that video, I will link to it in the description below. Amongst other trees, we have 3 very large pine trees that overhang the driveway. And the pine trees are very generous when they shed their cones and needles, but these are very useful to me, so I collect them all up to be used at a later date. I use pine cones in craft projects, I make them into bird feeders, and I also dry them to use as firelighters in the winter months. But I can also keep them and return them to the earth in the form of a garden mulch. If I don't pick the pine cones up, then they get broken down with lots of car and foot traffic over the top of them. If left to their own devices, trees will provide their own organic matter, they'll spread their own seeds and they'll provide their own mulch. And this is what has happened over the years. The trees have provided lots of organic matter on top of the stones, with the car and foot traffic over the top of them have ground them down, and some of this matter has fallen through the stones and some has laid on top. So coupled with the other natural elements that help to make up soil, it's been the perfect environment for passing or creeping weed seeds to grow, and over time it has gradually built up. Underneath the trees here on the banking, the pine needles are doing me a big favour as they're providing nutrition back to the tree. They're stopping the weeds from growing quite as much, and they're also keeping the moisture in. This is working well here, but it doesn't work so well on the driveway. So this is why it's so important for me to pick up anything that can return to organic matter on the driveway, as it will make my life harder later on when I'm weeding. And none of it goes to waste, it just gets relocated to another area in the garden. Unfortunately, I can't pick up every single tiny pine needle, but I can pick up the majority of them, and I store them in a plastic bag up by the compost bin, and I will keep them there for a couple of years until they've broken back down into soil, and then I will use them again back in the garden. Any acidic loving plant will really benefit from the proceeds that come out of this bag once it's all broken down. Once I've cleared what I can from the driveway, then it's time to play a little bit of catch up. And these are the weeds that have grown since last year that I've just not had time to pick up. So now's the time to get it done. Maintenance work is just as important as development work, sometimes even more so, as if we don't maintain what we've done, we end up doing the job over and over again, and it is at risk of getting out of hand. So we like to prioritise them so we don't become overwhelmed and end up getting nothing done. Who said a simple life was an easy life? One of our friends recently asked why I wasn't using a layer of fabric membrane before adding the stones on top of the fabric, which I have done in certain parts of the garden to prevent the weeds growing so quickly. In my experience, using fabric membrane has its place, but it won't completely stop the weeds unless it's got another covering to block out the rest of the light, for example under the sheds, or in our case under our log store. And I have lots of examples of that around the croft. We have membrane with stones on top right in front of the house, and I still have to weed that. And I've got membrane in certain places next to the polytunnel, and I still have to weed that. So it doesn't seem to matter whether it's got stones on top or whether it's got wood chip on top, then the weeds will still find a way. But it does minimize the weeds. So this is why I try to reverse the soil building process by removing as much organic matter as I can from the driveway and covering it with stone to exclude as much light as I can. But in our growing areas, I use mulch and tried not to disturb the soil once the beds are in place, as this can trigger dormant weed seeds to start to germinate. So by understanding how soil is made, you can reverse it for the areas that you don't want anything to grow. This is just what's working for me. I don't use any form of chemical-based weed killer on the property, as weed killer can do so much damage to the natural ecosystem on so many levels. It could seep into our waterways, and you still have to pick up the dead weeds afterwards anyway. So what I'm doing is my preferred method, and that feels right to me. And everything that I'm collecting from here will be going either into the compost or into the bag with the pine needles. And this soil production will go back into being a useful product once again, and nothing leaves the property and nothing goes to waste. Once I finish the driveway, it will need annual maintenance, but gradually over time it will get less and less work. And of course, there's always time for tea, and what better place to sit back and observe your work is on the pile of stones that you're trying to move. Laying the stones really is a good workout in itself, but it's quite motivating as you can really start to see the area that you've covered. Day 2 brings some very changeable weather, but I have my heart set on getting this part finished today, so if it starts to rain, I'll just have to put a coat on. So here we go for the final stages of weeding this part of the driveway. I'm so close. Both sides of the driveway are going to be separate projects in their own right, as one needs the stone banking to be reinstated and the other side needs the end of the dry stone wall to be rebuilt, and also edging to be fitted to separate the stone from the driveway onto the future lawn, which will be in front of the house. The rest of the stones in the pile are going to be used at the other end of the driveway near the shed, which is also going to get cleared and weeded. And also along the back of the house, along the pathway, I'm also going to weed and clear that and lay a fresh layer of stones along there too. But for now, I am so glad that this part of the job is done, but I will look forward to rebuilding the edges when the time is right and as the entrance and driveway evolves. But thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself and others, and I'll see you in the next video.